Back in February, we shared a love story of a woman who amassed so much land, they called her the king who became queen. Mary King outlived several husbands and eventually settled down and had children with the Reverend Robert Henry.
And that's where we left the story. But like many tales from history books, they branch out and continue to get more and more fascinating as time goes on. That's why Andy Nunez does what he does. He is an author and amateur historian here to continue sharing his passion. Andy, welcome to Delmarva Life. Always
glad to be
good
back.
to see you.
Always, yeah. Always.
So we left talking about Mary King's son, John Henry, who was in the military?
He was. His father was a pastor, but he married Dorothy Ryder, who was descended from a family in Dorchester County, and he became the inheritor through her of the estate called Weston on the Nanticoke River. So he became a colonel in the militia, and eventually during the Revolution he was on George Washington's staff.
Wow.
Not only that, but as we've talked about before, his house was raided by the Tories and the British. And they burned part of it. They killed his horse with a cannonball. They burned his schooner at the dock in Vienna. It's 10,000 pounds worth of damage.
Wow.
You know, he really went through it. But, you know, he went on, you know, to become a well-known person here in Dorchester County.
So Colonel Henry had a son.
I had a son whose name also was John Henry.
Okay.
John Henry didn't serve, but he was in the Maryland Assembly.
Right.
And after the Revolution, he was a delegate for the Continental Congress, and he became the first senator from Maryland.
Pretty important guy.
Pretty important guy. He also ran for president.
Oh my.
Yeah, and in the election of 1796, he only got 2 votes.
Oh my.
So 2 electoral votes, that is.
Oh, okay.
No, not just, okay. Sorry. And anyway, so he went on to become Maryland's 2nd governor.
Okay.
Right.
He only got to serve 1 year, died at home at Weston, and his son, John Campbell Henry, went on to inherit all this.
Right.
But in 1806, the house caught fire. All the family portraits were burned. A lot of important historical papers were burned. So we're not really sure what Governor Henry looked like. But a friend of mine who's descended from Governor Henry, his mother had a portrait of somebody that she thought was Governor Henry. And I always asked her, I said, well, how do you know it's him? She said, oh, he looks like my Aunt Boots, you know, who was, you know, in the Henry family.
Right.
So I put the picture in one of my books, and Bryce Stump from the Times, he took it over and had it appraised, and the guy said, well, it's the right time period, so who knows? So, but this John Campbell Henry, he ended up moving to Cambridge and building a mansion called Hambrookes. And his son was Francis Jenkins Henry.
Okay.
If you remember from February, that was the name of Mary King's first husband.
Yeah.
Yeah. So his son, Francis Jenkins Henry, became a militia officer himself. He raised his own company of 100 men, paid $1,000 to equip them. His son, who was also named John Campbell Henry after his grandfather, didn't like the whole business about the secession and joined the Confederacy.
Really?
Against everybody, the family's will, because I have a copy of a letter that his mother wrote to him when he was serving with General Lee.
Yeah.
It says, I know you don't agree with, you know, our points of view and stuff like that, but I, you know, just want you to know that we still love you.
Oh my goodness,
You know.
wow.
So he came back and became a prominent official in Dorchester County.
So the family came full circle?
Came full circle, yeah, because even Governor Henry wrote that after the Revolution, African Americans have had a taste of what liberty is about, and they're going to want it.
Wow.
So even though his son or descendant didn't agree with that, the tide of history was changing. And by 1963, Judge Laird Henry spoke out against segregation during the time of civil rights, and the Cambridge business people all got together to try to solve the problem of segregation all on their own.
How about that?
So we've gone nearly 300 years of history
And the
with one
Henrys are-
family. Yeah,
How about, oh my goodness.
Andy Nunez, as always, thank you
you.
for coming in.
my pleasure.
Wow, what a great
Interesting
story.
story, yeah.